name is Jack Barrich, and this is Ocean Solutions, a podcast produced by AltaSea at the Port of Los Angeles. AltaSea is developing the most innovative ocean research campus in the world, a place where scientists, educators, and business people can work together on solving some of the world's most pressing problems, including climate change, energy supply, and global food security. On today's show is Bob McKnight, the founder of seminal surf brand Quiksilver. Bob discusses how his company created a foundation to grant money to nonprofits that help to clean the ocean, and how his company created more sustainable practices that can protect the environment. It's a great example of how businesses can hold themselves more accountable, and it's something we all can learn from. Hope you enjoy the show. Hey, thank you for joining us today, Bob. You're the co-founder of the seminal surf brand Quiksilver. But before Quiksilver, you were in film school at USC, wanted to be a filmmaker. How did you take that and the storytelling that you developed, as a film student, and use that to develop your brand at Quiksilver?
Well, I was in the School of Business at USC, and but I got a minor in cinema, so I was really interested in making movies, getting into the movie business. I'd made, these homemade surf movies, Super 8 surf movies throughout high school and into college. In fact, I went up and down the coast and sold tickets to the movies. They're very, amateur hour, homemade Super 8 movies. They're about an hour long, but they were pretty good, pretty cool back in the day. $1 a ticket, who can really miss out? And I made some money and paid my way through school. But in that, I gained a real love and desire to continue making movies, continue making stories in film. And like I said, got a minor in cinema. So if I came back to graduate school, it was probably going to be in business, but it also could have been associated with maybe being a graduate student in the cinema school at USC. Very famous cinema school.
Was the ability to tell those stories in the surf movies you made something that you could then translate to in telling the story of Quiksilver as you were growing the brand?
Yeah, I think I've always been into film, watching movies, and I am to this day. All the great films and the great directors, I follow their careers, and some of the great actors, whatever. So I love the whole art of film. So for me, I made surf movies, and I did my own style of surf movies, where it wasn't just wave after wave after wave with music. I told stories, I did interviews, I had people talking, I had music, I put comedy. They were really fun, but they were in essence trying to communicate the surf culture, the surf lifestyle to people that either were in it or weren't in it, and wouldn't be the same effect. And in that, the projects I did in the film school were similar, where they were all about storytelling. And I think from all that experience, I was able to really help when we started Quiksilver, and even to today, communicating this Quiksilver story, the life, the culture, the history, the team riders, the events, and all that, into not just showing it, but but creating content and story around whatever we're doing. Because it's a little bit like the Olympics, where it's one part the actual athletic, the points and all that, but two-thirds is about the person or the athlete, right, and their background.
It's up close and personal.
Everybody's got a story, yeah. So I became good at it, and I think I'm still pretty good at it today.
So if you were going to tell the story of the health of the ocean to the world, what would that story be?
I think you would use a lot of backdrop of places start with places that are beautiful, and waterfalls flowing, and tropical trees, and beautiful surf, and coral reefs, and diving, and all the magic and mystery and sensationalism of the ocean and the reefs and all that. And then you would juxtapose it against like the reality of it, dirty water, the plastics, the reefs that are dying. And there's very easily obtained media for both sides of it. So you could paint a picture and tell a story and have a lot of narrative over the top from scientists and from people that just go to the beach, sharing their stories and what they see and what they're fearful of. And you could paint a pretty provocative picture of what's going on.
So with your company, with Quiksilver, you guys get involved with a lot of philanthropic causes that are related to the ocean. Talk about some of the initiatives that Quiksilver works with so that it's part of the solution. I know we had talked in a previous podcast about some of the problems that the apparel industry has with the environment, with the ocean. But there are also solutions. So talk about some of the things you guys like to get behind.
Yeah, so our foundation is really about just supporting our culture, lifestyle, the beach, the beach. So most of it's in water and water cleanliness, health, safety, kids, which is what I talked about before, is educating kids. 'Cause that's really where it starts. The initiatives and the education has to be aimed at K through 12 kids. I thoroughly believe that because they'll be the stewards of this planet in the future. And I think we're too late to get to the 35 and older crowd. They've already made up their minds. They're already into their cadence, whatever they do every day. So it's the kids you have to educate. So again, water, kids, education, science, and we do some stuff in the wellness area also that have to do with personal, employees that have had problems or things like that we can focus on cancer, breast cancer, for instance, or something like that. So those would be the kind of pillars of our foundation. And we spend a lot of time, obviously, on clean water, safe beaches, clean mountains and the mountain environment, because it's all the water, still water. And so with the ocean, stuff like surf aid is very important to us, is still important. Reef check. We do we used to do and are going to now start it back up. We had this thing called Quick Science with the Wrigley Institute in Catalina, where they study the environment between a pristine island and a corrupt, let's call it, cityscape, and what happens in the water between the two, with freighters going through and depletion of fish and trash and stuff coming out of the rivers and all that from Southern California, and what is the effect on that environment. So we have a big project with them. We do a similar thing with the Aquarium of the Pacific. They have this new wing that we helped fund, and the wing is opening up in a month or two, and their whole theory in the wing for the first at least year or two is going to be about water, food, and energy, which are right in the wheelhouse of what we care about, because in the future it's going to be all about feeding and watering the planet, and then also how do we power everything that we got going and still make it healthy on the planet, cars, airplanes, all that stuff.
Sure. I saw you speak at the Rising Tide Summit, and you made no bones about the fact that if you're out there doing good philanthropic work, no problem with selling a pair of shorts and t-shirt while you're, as part of that process, not necessarily specifically there, but part of the branding with that. So the point of that, me bringing that up, is the question is what part of business do you feel private business owners and sort of matching up with education and matching up with science will be involved with creating some of those solutions in the ocean that are needed? So where there's more of a maybe economical profit motive and sustainable solution, because there is a business solution that goes along with it.
Yeah, so we started our foundation almost 20 years ago now. It was really because we had done well, making good profits. We're a public company. People began challenging us on that whole Patagonia bent about, looking after the planet, giving 1% back and all that. And we felt we had to not create a stance, but we already had been sensitized to that and trying to do our best, but we weren't perfect. So we decided we weren't going to get on a soapbox and start preaching, we're this, we're that, because we're not. We're guilty. But we can do our part. And that became a mission in the company, is what are all the things that we can do to be better stewards of the earth? And so we started a sustainability committee within the building that mirrored, the foundation was doing the work with raising money and giving it out in grants to people that were like-minded to us and caring for the ocean and the planet and the cleanliness and all that. But at the same time, within our company, what can we do? So there's two parts of that. One was just in the actual business operations, the cardboard boxes, the hangers, the staples, everything that is in everybody's workplace, and how we dispose of things and how we utilize things and how we recycle things, and all that became a paramount pillar in our company. And on the other side, how can we make our garments better? And that's where we started the plastics thing with the board shorts, and now I think it's almost 100% of our board shorts, and maybe 80% of our outerwear is all made out of crushed recyclable plastics in bottles. But we also started working on the threads and how we finish goods and the fabrics we buy and all these features of our actual apparel that we could get better and better and better, knowing that we're not ever going to be perfect. Sure. But if my mind is going to that in the operation of the business with sustainability and then the actual products, that I think a lot of other minds out there are doing the same thing, I would hope.
Right.
And when I talk to my brethren at other companies, they are all doing similar or more things or less things than us.
Sure.
So now with Board Riders, we have 9 brands. We formed a Board Riders Sustainability Committee, which one of our people from Quicksilver that worked for us for years and years and years, Kathy Curtis, who now works at Billabong, but now we're one big happy family. So she's chairing that committee, and it's fantastic. They meet once a month. There's about 30 people in the room, and they start picking apart every single thing. And they have punch lists, and they have activation, and how do we do, and they have measurements, and it's amazing. And then my group over the Quiksilver side, we have the foundation. So now the 2 committees are meeting regularly about projects we can do together because there's lots of similarity in what we do. So we have a foundation, and then we have a sustainability committee, and it's just that's what they think about every time they wake up. And every time they have a meeting is all the things they can be doing and get the word out to everyone in the company to be better citizens. And not only stuff they can do here at work, but at home too.
So, at Altasea, who I'm doing this podcast on behalf of, we see that the ocean is not only obviously something worth protecting, but we see it also providing solutions. That if you put science and business together, you can look to the ocean to maybe find some energy solutions, food solutions. Are there any solutions that are coming out of the ocean that you've seen, any businesses coming out of the ocean that you've seen that you find exciting, whether it be seaweed and kelp farming or things like that? Like, what are some of the things that you've looked at, or maybe not for your company, but just, as somebody who's passionate about the ocean?
Yeah. So, we're so busy making apparel and designing and trying to be ahead of the wolf pack and making sure they're priced right and they look good and they feel good and they wear well and they fit. And then marketing them and then selling them and then collecting them. We have our own, so we're not, we don't find ourselves that we can actually get out there and do some of this stuff ourselves, which is really frustrating because it'd be a whole nother side business. We do have an innovation department in the company, but it's mostly innovating new things for water safety and like our air vest, inflatable vest for big wave riding. That's an example of something that came out of our innovation committee, part of our company, and other things like that. But what we do is we raise money in the foundation, and then we go out and we find these little people and things that are happening, and we try to seed some money into there so they can continue their work. John Rose with Waves for Water is a great example of that, where he's out there on the front line after hurricanes and earthquakes and trauma and drama out there in the world. And he goes right in himself with a little team, and they help the people with their water health. So they're little filtration kits, and they seed the filtration kits, and they teach the people how to use them, and they supply them, and then they move on to the next project. And it's just amazing. So love stuff like that. That not a little guy, but he's not a big, huge thing. Sure. He's like a small little business, but he's got this unbelievable operation.
Right.
So that's a great example of something that we just love, and we help, and we seed, and all that. There's another. This guy, Vipe DeSalle, who ran the thing you're talking about, the
Rising Tide?
The Rising Tide Summit, excuse me. And he sends me 2 or 3 of these things a week. And something called plastic paddler or something like that came a few weeks ago. And it was amazing. Same thing. A little guy who's sick of all the plastics coming down, as we spoke about before, because it all happens, well, not all of it, but a lot of it happens inland where they don't give a shit about the ocean because they never get to go there, which is unfortunate. And I get that. They're busy trying to put food on their table for their families. They don't worry about this elitist place called the ocean. So the stuff, gets thrown away, comes down the cities, city washways, and goes into the big rivers, and then ends up right in the ocean. So this guy is somewhere in Sweden or something, and he got sick of it. This river just pushing stuff down through the harbor and down in the ocean. So he set up this. Where all the stuff comes through one particular point in the harbor, and he built this boat with this giant paddle wheel, and it just paddles. All the water goes to the paddle, and it scoops up all the plastics and sends it over to this dumping thing. The dumping thing churs it up and separates it and whatever they do with it to recycle it. But it's amazing, and it's just this one guy doing this one thing in this one river. And you start thinking about it, like, what if those things were everywhere? They could, I mean, there's little things like that that are emerging. We have another guy that I forget what it's called. It's a great little company, but he's going on beach cleanups and cleaning the beach, but a lot of it ends up being plastic. He separates the plastic, he's churning the plastics up, and he's making little bracelets out of it that are for sale at all of our retail stores. And if you buy a bracelet, X amount goes back into the project. And it's fantastic. But he's a little guy doing a little thing, and it'll be a little impact, but it's just, if the common mindset starts happening with a lot of little things all over the place, and it's going to amount to a big movement. And I mean, those are just some examples. I mean, the other things that we talked about were the stuff that the aquarium's working on, the thing that the Ocean Institute's working on, Dana Point, the things that the Wrigley, those are big things. Reviving the oyster population in California, reviving the what's a small little anyway, bringing back the swordfish, caring about the sharks and bat rays and all that stuff. I mean, there's huge things going on. They're all of significance and help, but those are the kind of things that are, millions of dollars in funding,
right.
but they are funded, and they're taking, the things we are working on are tens and twenties and fifties of thousands of dollars that can really make an impact. And we like those things because our employees can study them, they can see them, they can feel them, touch them, and they feel like we're really having impact. So we try to do things that are like that, and then we can actually put our brand on it. So Surfrider Foundation today announces it has a beach that we're gonna do beach testing between Seal Beach and Dana Point for the next year, and that's Quicksilver project through the foundation. We like stuff like that, where we get a little bit of a halo for the brand, but it's something that feels good. Our employees feel good about it. The public feels good about it, and we can, like I said, we can go down there and
I think you
be part of the beach cleanups.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head when you were talking about the little guys, and you use the word movement, and that's kind of what it is. There's these big, enormous things that are happening, but if a lot of little guys did a lot of little things, it would probably add up to one pretty massive big thing.
Yeah,
and it's interesting that that's your guys' approach, is really finding those unique projects that do that kind of stuff.
Well, and then we have another side, like I said earlier, a little bit of wellness and health that we're part of Movember, and we're part of Keep Abreast and things like that are near and dear to everyone in the company, men from the prostate standpoint and gals for the breast cancer thing. So we like to support things like that. We're a big supporter of Chalk Hospital, and we're doing the big walk coming up, and just stuff that also has to do with health and wellness. And along those lines, we're a huge donator of goods to those kinds of things, where people can, we'll build all their T-shirts for the Chalk Walk, or that we're doing now, the Newport Beach Film Festival, things like that, where we get our logo out, but it also is part of putting some money into their causes that we think have big impact. But our people know about them. They're cultural things that are close by and part of the community that make them feel good. But certainly, we give millions of dollars every year of product to churches and schools and fundraisers and other people's charity stuff like that too, where we can't write a check, but we can give them product.
Right.
So,
okay. Hey, thank you, Bob. Thank you for taking the time, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you. Very welcome.
Thank you for listening to Ocean Solutions, produced by AltaSea at the Port of Los Angeles. To learn more about AltaSea, please visit altasea.org.